right, so this is going to be page 2 of packet 2. We're basically continuing from page 1 on factoring polynomials, the reverse distributive property. So let's start with number 13. Start by finding the greatest common factor of the coefficients first. Now, if you can't, I know both of these are divisible by 2, but that's not the greatest common factor of both of those numbers. If you've forgotten how to find the factors on the calculator, I've written those right here. You can use your Desmos calculator to see the factors. So you would go in and you'd put y equals, I would look for the factors of 48. If you wanted to see the factors of 48, you'd say y equals 48 divided by x, and then you'd make sure to view the table, and then it would list all of the factors of 48. And you want to find that largest factor that would be the same as a factor of 18. That's a common factor. So we want the greatest common factor. Anyway, the greatest common factor between an 18 and a 48 is a 6. So I'm going to write that down. Now I'm looking at the variables. This one goes to a squared. This one only goes to a. So that's all I can use is a. I've got a b to the first, a b to the first, so I can factor out a b. And I've got a c squared and a c cubed. So that means I can factor out a c squared. C squared. And I'm going to open parentheses. If I take my 6ab c squared, I'm going to just write it once instead of twice. 18 divided by 6 is 3. A squared divided by a is a to the first. The b's are going to cancel. The c squareds are going to cancel. I guess I do need to write this twice. Now I'm also going to divide this term by 6 a b c squared. The negative 48, excuse me, that's a positive 6. Negative 48 divided by a positive 6 is negative 8. The a's are going to cancel. The b's are going to cancel. C cubed divided by c squared is 3 minus 2, so that's 8c. So this one factors into 6abc squared times 3a minus ac. The way to check it, again, is to redistribute. So 6 times 3 is 18. There's my 18. A times a is a squared. And then b, c squared is all that's left. Jump over to negative 8c. 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. And then that's an a b. And then c squared times c is going to get you your c cubed. That one might be complicated. You might have to listen to that again. I'm looking at number 15. Number 15, 5 and 13 do not have a common factor. Both of those numbers are prime. X and y are not the same. So this is prime. There is nothing you can factor out of it. And that would be, you would just write prime as the answer. Number 17. So number 17 is a trinomial. So you have to find a common factor for all 3 terms. Since all 3 of these are even, I know I can divide all of them by 2. And that looks like the highest number I can use. So I know I'm going to factor out a 2. I see a y to the 4th, a y cubed, and a y squared. So the one I can use that's the highest for all of them is just a y squared. So that's what I'm going to factor out. Open parentheses. So 2y squared, 2y squared, 2y squared. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Y to the 4th divided by y squared is going to be y squared. 14 divided by 2 is a positive 7. The y cubed divided by y squared is y. And finally, negative 10 divided by 2 is a negative 5. The y squareds are going to cancel. So factored form is going to look like this. Number 19. All right, so we've got another trinomial. We've got a 14, a 28, and a 14. Now, all of them are even, but they are also, 14 can go into all 3 of these. So we're going to use 14 as our greatest common factor for the coefficients. Now, for the variables, I see g to the first, And since there is no g on that third term, we cannot factor out a g. But we can factor out an h to the first. So 14h is our greatest common factor between these three terms. And now I divide each one of these by 14h. It is helpful to write it underneath each term, especially as you're learning to do this. All right, so 14 and 14 cancels. There is no g to cancel, so I'm just going to write the g. H squared and h leaves me with gh. 28 divided by 14 is going to be a positive 2. The g again is going to, it did not divide out, it didn't cancel, but we are left with, oh, the h's cancel. The h's cancel there. Here, the 14h's both cancel, but we do have to have a placeholder with saying +1. So this factors into 14h times gh plus 2g plus 1. And if I were to redistribute that, I'd end up back where I started. Number 21, we've got two variables, which is fine. I don't see any coefficients that I can factor out. I see a 5, but none of the other terms have a coefficient other than a 1 or a -1. So I want to look at my m's. I have m cubed, m squared, m to the first. So m to the first is going to be the highest one that I can use for all of them. And then n to the first is what I can factor out for the n's. So I can factor out mn. So I divide each term by mn. So here, the n's cancel, but m cubed divided by m to the first leaves me with m squared. Here, it's negative. 2 minus 1 leaves me with m to the first. 2 minus 1 leaves me with n to the first. And finally here, the 5 is a positive 5. The m's cancel. For n, it's 3 minus 1, so n squared. So this one factors into mn times m squared minus mn plus 5n squared. Number 23. So I'm looking at number 23, and it's looking like 5 is the greatest common factor out of the coefficients. So I'm going to factor out a 5. I've got a squared, a to the first, and a. So it looks like a to the first is as high as I can go. I see a b squared right here, but the other two terms don't have a b, so I cannot factor out the b. All right, so I divide each term by 5a. 35 divided by 5 is 7. A squared divided by a is a. Negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. The a's cancel. And I'm left with b squared. 15 divided by 5 is positive 3. And then those a's completely cancel. So that's it. So it's a 5a times 7a minus 4b squared plus 3. And again, you should check it by redistributing. These are really good directions right here at the bottom as a recap. And that's the end of page 2.